Hello, and welcome to Natasha Explains It All. Today's episode is a continuation of the prior episode where I mentioned I wanted to do a series about the book publishing process because I am in the process of trying to publish a nonfiction book called Get Well: How the Pandemic and the Wellness Industry Make the Case for Prison Abolition. And I'm in the process right now of securing a agent. And the agent's job is to help bring the book to market, to find a publishing house that will buy the book and then publish it and distribute it. And yeah, I thought it would be a fun series to talk about the process, not only as an accountability mechanism for myself, but as a way to help demystify the process as well, because I am very much learning in real time. And it's exciting, but it's definitely a completely new world, and there's so much to learn. And it's, and I know that there are a lot of, aspiring authors out there. So, I wanted to give an update since the last episode about what's happened and some additional tips and other things that I've learned. And, last episode I did touch on a little bit regarding current events. And I just want to say that I think I could go on forever, but the importance of culture, the importance of art, the importance of pushing for creativity and the things that keep us alive are important. I mean, the ideas in this book are also about creating that better world, but even more broadly about the importance of art and the importance of art as a vehicle for the change that we want. Probably like many of you, I'm still processing and glowing from Bad Bunny's halftime performance at this year's Super Bowl, and just the artistry of it and the creativity and also the powerful messaging, right? The beauty of using art as a vehicle for creating the world that we want, and the message of love being the only thing that is more powerful than hate. And I very much resonate with that message personally, as well as what the ethos of my book is, and my belief in why we need art at all times. And it is so hard to find time and energy to support creative pursuits in the midst of just existing. But it is a form of resistance, and it is such a beautiful thing. And so, anyway, writing is one of my creative outlets, and I see it as part of my commitment, not just to myself, but to creating the world that I want and the values that I believe in the midst of so much else that is counter to that. So there's the little philosophizing for this episode. In terms of an update on where I am in the literary process of securing an agent as the next step towards publication of my book, I have really exciting news that since the last episode, I actually heard back positively from an agent asking for my materials, asking for more information essentially, which was the first positive response that I've gotten, and coincidentally was actually the first agent that I queried about 3 months ago. But it took about 3 months to get a response to that query letter. I'm really excited to see what happens now. I've submitted additional materials, and I'll wait to see if the agent then responds. For the sake of the privacy of the process, and not trying to create any type of outside influence, I'll keep it. I won't mention any names in this series. But so I'll try to be as specific as possible so I can give people insight into what this process is like, while I think for obvious reasons, preserving the necessary privacy in the process. But so very excited that I finally heard back from an agent who wanted to know more. And now I wait to see what the response to that additional information that I provided is. And, I was looking online, and it seems like, just like in terms of initial responses to query letters, responses to, requests for more materials or any type of follow-up, the response time range can be a day to many months. So we shall see. But anyway, that was really exciting news that I wanted to share. And also on the querying front, I finally reached the 50 query letter mark. Last time, for the last episode, I mentioned that I was like just shy of reaching 50 query letters. And now I have officially made it to 50, which is exciting. And along with that, probably, I don't know, about a dozen rejections so far. And then one, request for more. So, gonna keep going, but that's where I am. And one of the things that I mentioned, I believe I mentioned in the last episode, that one of the things that is particularly important for nonfiction authors is platform. And one of the things I have done since the last episode is starting a Substack. And you can check out my Substack. It's called Thoughts from Natasha, natashatbaker.substack.com. But I think if you just search for Thoughts from Natasha, you will find it. I've got a couple of posts up so far. There will be more coming. And I thought about this question of platform and social media presence and what would actually be sustainable for me. And I have been on Medium for several years, where I have posted essays, poetry, other types of short form writing. And I realized that, so it is something that I do and I enjoy doing. And I wanted to be able to maintain something like that. But I realized that I'm not really engaging in the Medium environment. I'm not engaging with, other writers on there or reading a lot of other content on there. I used to more, but more recently I haven't. Whereas in contrast, I read a lot of stuff on Substack. There are several newsletters that I subscribe to who are either independent journalists or writers or literary agents or others who use Substack as their platform. And so I realized, that is a social media platform that I regularly access, that I enjoy the content of, and I like the format, and it's simple to use. And it also, which is an important part of the platform component for a book, is that it helps you create an email list, quickly, because as people subscribe to your Substack, they're added to a mailing list, so they get notifications about your new posts. And so that is going to be really helpful down the line to promoting the book itself, book tour dates, things like that. And so I decided, what I'm going to do is I'm going to start a Substack. And I will try to slowly move over posts from my Medium account while also creating new content for my Substack. So the people that I like to read are on there. And therefore, I think the people that I hope will be interested in reading my writing will also be on there as well. So I would really appreciate a follow or feedback if you are on Substack. Again, the name of my Substack is called Thoughts from Natasha. It's at natashatbaker.substack.com. And it's going to still include essays, poetry, reflections. I'm trying to do some different things as well. So, for example, I recently published an op-ed in the Sacramento Bee about a change that the Federal Communications Commission passed regarding caps on the phone call rates for jails and prisons. Like the telecom industry, the handful of companies that runs those contracts to provide phone calls to the outside in prisons and jails. And the FCC recently raised those caps, which means that phone calls will become more expensive. It's very problematic for various reasons, and I delve into that in the op-ed. So that was published in the Sacramento Bee a couple of months ago, and so I reposted that on my Substack and provided a little bit more context to why I wrote the op-ed and its continued relevance today. So, some things like that. And I will put on there as well, like the original article that launched the idea behind my book. So I'll publish that at some point, but I welcome other ideas. And so I'm going to experiment. I'm going to experiment with that as a way of having an online presence on a platform that I feel comfortable with actually sustaining. So, because I think that's just such a huge component of it. If you're not consistent about things, right? It's that kind of loses the weight of having that platform. And I still have my podcast, which you are currently listening to. And, the podcast every episode gets published on essentially every podcast platform as well as YouTube. So I have a YouTube channel. And right now I'm only doing audio episodes. So on YouTube, it's just also the audio of each episode. Maybe at some future point I will do video. But right now, my bandwidth is limited to audio. But yeah, so that's another thing I'm doing, working on building my platform through starting a Substack. Thoughts from Natasha. And then I think the last thing that I wanted to share in this update was a couple of suggestions regarding podcasts that I've been listening to that are about the writing process, about the publishing industry, about the querying process that I have found helpful. And there are a lot, it's just amazing how many resources are available these days. But I'll mention just three that I listen to with regularity that I have found helpful. One is called Simply Write with Polly Campbell, and that's from the perspective of a writer and author, Polly Campbell. And that one, like the name implies, Simply Write, is more about the writing process. But there's been, in recent episodes, she's gone over different components of a nonfiction book proposal, for example. So there's some technical knowledge in there that I think is helpful. And then the two other ones that I wanted to mention, which are The Shit No One Tells You About Writing and Print Run. So that's The Shit No One Tells You About Writing, and then a separate podcast, Print Run. Both of those podcasts are run by literary agents themselves. So Simply Write is like from an author's perspective, and then the other two podcasts, The Shit No One Tells You About Writing and Print Run, are by literary agents. So the people who are reading, the book proposals and the manuscripts that authors are submitting, seeking representation. And I find both of them very, very interesting and informative about the publishing industry, tips for, aspiring authors and how to navigate it. And also just, trying to understand, like, how does this industry work? What are things to keep in mind? They've given me ideas on, who to query, what kind of things should I be mindful of in the query process, what to include in my book proposal. I found that very, very helpful. So I wanted to pass along those podcast suggestions in case there's a listener who is looking for additional free resources on how to get started on this. And I would say what's also nice as well about all three of these podcasts is that they cover both fiction and nonfiction. So kind of regardless of what genre you may be writing in, their content is applicable. And I've learned a lot. I have learned a lot from them. So as I mentioned, there are many more, but those are three that I have found helpful in trying to navigate this new world. So that's all for today. There'll probably be more episodes to this series. I've been enjoying this, kind of accountability mechanism to share what's been happening in the process, because I'm really committed to, bringing this project across the finish line. I have 2 other books in mind that I would love to publish someday, but one at a time. And one of them, it would be a fiction. One of them would be historical fiction. And this one is a nonfiction one. So yeah, this is a hard process. This is a really hard process, but I'm excited for, I'm excited for it. And hopefully in the next episode, I'll have more good news to share. But in the meantime, hopefully all of this was helpful. And follow me on Substack if you are so inclined. Again, that's Thoughts from Natasha. And the podcasts that I mentioned, again, are Simply Write. Write as in writing. Simply Write. The Shit No One Tells You About Writing, and Print Run. So that's all for today. Thanks so much for listening, and see you next time.